Business Brain, episode 599 for Casual Friday, November 15th, National Direct-to-Consumer Day, 2024. Greetings, folks, and welcome to Business Brain, the show where we take some ideas, we analyze them, and use them to tune our business brains each and every time we get together so we can all keep living those charmed lives. Speaking of charmed lives, we've got two sponsors this week that have all kinds of great things to help us in our businesses. Notion.com/businessbrain is where you can go to try out Notion AI for free today. And then LegalZoom.com, where you use promo code BBSHOW, gets you 10% off of any non-subscription business formation product. So we'll talk more in depth about those in a little bit. And make sure you listen to the ad reads. I have ChatGPT write those scripts for me, and I tell it to make me say crazy things. So let's listen to see what we'll get to find out together what it makes me say. Here in Durham, New Hampshire, I'm Dave Hamilton.
And in Northern California, I'm Shannon Jean. Happy Friday.
Happy Friday, my friend.
Happy. I really enjoyed learning about Globowl in the last episode we had, and Erica Beth Levin, and hearing her story. I love it, man. The conversion from the idea to a business, and to, because so many people get stuck there. So listening to how she took this concept of wanting her kids to have a better experience with their food and everything, that's powerful, man.
It's huge. And I know we tried to find different ways of saying that and having Erica say it in the last episode. But the thing is, the conversion from idea to starting your business is actually a very simple and easy step. You just take the step. Yes. It doesn't mean your business is going to succeed. Doesn't mean like you're not making any money. You haven't even made a product yet. But taking that step of just saying, I am now doing this, not I'm going to do this, but
Correct.
Find some action, a simple action that can be the first thing. Like, I registered my domain today.
Yes,
I know what I'm going to call the company. I registered the domain. Now I'm going to maybe, call LegalZoom, our sponsor, right? Or, whatever.
Yes,
Get an LLC formed, start planning the list. Like for her, planning the list of what's going to be the first four, foods that
flavors.
Flavors. And then figuring out, I don't know what the next step is because I've never done this before. Talking to someone else that's going to be part of your board of advisors, that's another step. We've just articulated 4 steps, I think.
That's
and
right.
you could take all of them in a morning.
Yeah.
Like seriously, it's just not a big deal.
It's not a big deal.
Yet it's a huge deal because it frees you from sidelines to being in the game.
Yeah. And the way that Erica, going back to, she said something that was very important. She's like, I've started other businesses. I've started 3 other companies, or, I've understand the process. I understand the system. And I would say that one of the keys to success with Globowl is the fact that she got in the game before. She's in it. She understands.
She knows what that means.
Yes. And it's that she didn't sit on the sidelines and think about all this great things you could achieve and do. And, I always tell people, don't think about home runs, use a baseball analogy. Don't think about grand slams. Just get up to bat and strike out, and then
swing the freaking bat singles at the ball.
Yeah.
That's it.
If you've ever watched the movie Moneyball, which is based on a true story.
I think it was the Red Sox, wasn't it? Based on the Red Sox?
The Oakland A's, actually.
Oh, it's the Oakland A's.
The Red Sox used the system later.
The system, that's right. And
which is actually based on another guy's book. And it was the most important thing about any player was how many times they got on base. That was it. Nothing else. And they based the entire concept on, you should recruit that guy, even though he's a lousy, can't catch, his RBIs may not be that great, but he got on base more than X number of players. And that's how the Oakland A's, they created, and don't quote me on this because I'm not a stats guy.
Yeah,
but
sure.
The movie, anyway, they had the longest winning streak in like baseball history or something like that.
It certainly worked, even if it was exaggerated for the movie.
Of course.
Yeah, of course.
So the key, though, is you sticking with that analogy is, You just have to get in there and and you don't know where it's going to lead. I always tell people that I work with, it's like, you don't know yet what your business is going to be. Don't spend all this time creating this perfect, rigid business plan when you're not even sure what business you're going to be in yet.
No.
So learn the system, learn the processes. How do you get a resale permit? Basic stuff. How does your business license work? How do taxes work? All these things, do it in the beginning when you're small so you can learn and then grow later.
And then grow. That's it. Yeah, you can make a lot of mistakes when you're small. The IRS often even is if you make a mistake with your taxes and your business made $10,000 and you might owe an extra $500, the penalties and interest, they're not going to let you go on the penalties and interest, but the penalties and interest are low because it's on $500. When it's on $500,000,
it's a little different conversation.
It's a larger number. Yeah.
Yes, it is.
Yeah, that's how that works. No, it really, I was talking to somebody earlier today about learning a musical instrument, and I was talking about the difference between learning my first instrument and my second instrument.
Oh.
And it's the same conversation.
Yes, it is.
Because I knew starting guitar was, technically my third instrument, but I started piano and drums at close enough to the same time that I didn't have any fundamental knowledge of what it meant to learn an instrument that helped me with the second one. But with guitar, I absolutely did. I had been playing for decades, playing drums and piano poorly, and I still play guitar poorly. But starting with guitar, it was like, oh yeah, okay, like I'm terrible at this. I know some very specific truths. One is the things that my hands won't do today, if I just push until I am at the end of my rope and then put it down, tomorrow I will be better at those things, like sleeping and the processing that happens. It will just happen.
You got to put in the reps. You got to put in the reps, man.
And then, right. And there's the short-term benefits of the reps. And then there's the long-term benefits of, okay, put in a month's worth of practice into this one song. And guess what? At the end, you're probably going to be able to play something that sounds like that song. But it's not going to sound like that song on day one.
No.
And don't get frustrated. It's just how this works. But when you're doing your first instrument, you don't know that. And you stumble and you're like, oh, this sucks. I'm never going to do it again. It's like, well, maybe don't do that.
Don't wait.
Don't give up.
Don't give up.
That's it. Don't wait and don't give up. That goes on a t-shirt right there.
I'm adding it to the list right now.
Yep. I like that. Don't wait and don't give up. That is that's the magic. All right, folks. Let's talk about protecting our businesses. And I'm not talking about buying a magic shield or hiring a troll to guard the front door. I'm talking about setting it up right from the start. Ever hear the saying, protect your assets? Well, keeping your business assets business and your personal assets personal, this is what our sponsor LegalZoom is all about. LegalZoom has everything you need to launch, run, and protect your business in one place. From forming your LLC to getting tax guidance, they've got it covered. And they make it so easy you won't even break a sweat. Forget wasting hours on paperwork at LegalZoom.com. It's just a few clicks and you're done. And with over 20 years of experience helping millions of businesses get started, LegalZoom is the trusted way to launch and protect what you've built. So skip the headaches and keep your assets where they belong. Launch, run, and protect your business to make it official today at LegalZoom.com and use promo code BBSHOW to get 10% off any LegalZoom business formation product, excluding subscriptions and renewals. And this expires at the end of the year, December 31st, 2024. So get everything you need from setup to success at LegalZoom.com and use our promo code BBSHOW, LegalZoom.com, and use promo code BBSHOW. And as a disclaimer, LegalZoom provides access to independent attorneys and self-service tools. LegalZoom is not a law firm and does not provide legal advice except where authorized through its subsidiary law firm, LZ Legal Services, LLC. So go check it out. And our thanks to LegalZoom for sponsoring this episode. All right, while you're here, let me tell you about my secret weapon, our sponsor, Notion. I use it with one of my other businesses, and candidly, It feels like having a Swiss Army knife for my brain. Imagine one app that organizes your tasks, tracks your habits, lets you collaborate, and even knows where you left that genius idea from 3 months ago. I know. And here's where things get wild. The new Notion AI is a single AI tool that does it all. Search across Notion and other apps, generate docs in your own style, analyze PDFs and images, and chat with you about anything. It's like having a superpowered assistant who never forgets a detail, never misfiles a note, and somehow knows exactly what I need right when I need it. Notion AI connects to knowledge sources like GPT-4 and Claude, so it's not your run-of-the-mill chatbot. It actually gets your work. It's even set up to search across Slack discussions, Google Docs, Sheets, making it the perfect one-stop hub. And guess what? It's seamless, flexible, and respects your privacy. Over half of Fortune 500 companies use Notion, cutting down on emails, saving time, and canceling unnecessary meetings. Oh, that sounds like a great idea. So try Notion for free when you go to notion.com/businessbrain. That's all lowercase letters, notion.com/businessbrain to try the powerful, easy to use Notion AI today. And when you use our link, you're supporting our show. Notion.com/businessbrain. And our thanks to Notion for sponsoring this episode. Shannon, last week we promised that we would talk this week, and it is this week.
That's
how that works.
It's official.
About freedom versus flexibility. I was having a conversation with somebody this week, and it was one of the other parts of my life is that I'm a musician, and we played a show on a Sunday night, and the keyboard player was saying, "Well, I'm definitely taking tomorrow off." And he kind of looked at me. He's a programmer. We get along really well. We nerd out about things. It's cool. His job is not just the theater. He does it for the same reasons that I do. I mean, he's committed to it. He's dedicated. When he commits to a project, he's on board. But it's not his primary source of income.
Yeah,
it's
sure.
fun. Yeah, exactly. Right. And so, he said to me, he kind of looked at me when he said that. He's like, and that is the difference between you and me. He says, because I get to do that and I don't have to worry about what's going to happen tomorrow when I choose to take tomorrow off.
I'm not sure that's true, but anyway, go ahead.
But it was. What he was trying to say, and I understood what he meant was he had no overarching responsibility to the business. It was like, if I'm not there, other people will just handle things.
Yeah.
And I'll show up on Tuesday and everything's going to be fine. Yeah. Whereas for me, if I'm not there, things will move, but it doesn't necessarily mean I show up on Tuesday with nothing overflowing. Things might not have happened the same way.
I get that. And I think that
it's a mindset thing
it is
any more than it is a tangible reality.
Yeah. I always tell business owners, the system you're creating, it's not going to buy you freedom. No. It will buy you massive flexibility.
Yes.
In the sense that you are in charge of your time and you get to decide how you allocate it. And whether you've got a team of people around you or you're solopreneur on your own, that flexibility, I would argue, is more valuable than freedom. With our businesses, it doesn't matter what time of day it is. If something goes wrong, unless there's someone else in charge of it, I've got to fix it, right?
Unless I've put someone else in charge that I can trust 100% with that particular, whatever that problem is. And B, they don't feel the need to call me and tell me what's going on. Because if you call me and tell me what's going on, I don't know. No. I'm in. That's it.
Me too.
I remember,
can't just release it.
I remember the first time I took an actual vacation after we had started Backbeat was about 8 years in. I had traveled, but I had never taken a vacation where I did not check in with work every day or every other day. Right.
Yeah.
And my wife asked me, she said, do you think it was a do you think, but it was I think, yeah,
one of those
it
questions.
was one of those questions, correct. But it was, do you think that you could take a vacation where you really actually got a break from work?
Yeah.
And it was like, yeah, I think that would be good for me and it would be good for the staff. And we did a cruise, which back then there was no Wi-Fi on ships. Being in touch was the phone on the ship, and that cost a bunch and was a real pain in the neck to do anything with. But there was a way to reach us and for us to, get contact out if necessary. So I remember saying, yeah, I can. I think that would be good for me and good for the team. And having conversations with the team ahead of time, one of the conversations I remember having was, okay, look, here's the thing. If there's an emergency, I am reachable, and here's how you can do that. I will make sure to provide you with, the information once we get the phone of the ship that we're on. I'll get you all of that. But I have a request. I'm on this trip, and if you need to make a judgment call about whether or not to call me about this, because you can send me an email and I will get that email when I'm off the ship on the shuttle bus back to the airport in Florida, wherever we are.
Yeah.
I'll find out that day. Now, the maximum amount of time that would transpire between me, between you finding out whatever the problem is and me getting back is 7 days. Okay. But chances are it's not going to happen the moment I turn off my phone. It's going to happen 4 days in, 3 days in, something like that. I need you to ask yourself, is involving Dave going to significantly impact our chances of success with this in terms of long-term success? I don't care about a couple of days, but is the business going to absolutely crater if we don't call Dave today versus waiting 3 days for him to get involved? Because either way, I got to deal with this problem. But one version of this story ruins the remainder of my vacation, and the other lets me enjoy it in blissful ignorance.
Sure.
And it was a really interesting conversation to have because it was true about that scenario, but it also wound up opening things up for everything beyond that. Because it was okay, do we really need it? What kind of emergency is this?
Yes.
And it changed our company culture that day.
That's cool.
In terms of oh my God, it's a problem. We got to get on this right away. Well, but do we though?
No.
Sometimes yes. Sometimes yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
But rarely.
Right. And I do think that I think the flexibility is more valuable because you're, like I said, you're in control of your time, but you can manage and you can time shift. I've time shifted my whole life. My kids have this thing in the afternoon, so I'm heading out at 2:00. I'm going to hang out with them until 5. And we're doing this. We're going to come home and have dinner. And then once they get to doing their homework or whatever, I'm going to go back to work. And I used to physically drive back to the office before, it was connecting everything on a laptop and all that. So I just go, okay, I would always pick, 1 or 2 nights a week that I would go back to the office because I could be super productive.
Yes.
And what I want to make my own choices. I don't want anyone to control my time. It's just been a super motivator my whole life. I work very hard and I work all the time. I don't mind that because I get to work on things that interest me. Right.
Right.
And I know I'm building for myself. So if I don't finish, or if I take a break, or if I slack off, which I've done all of those things, maybe even today, it's nobody's fault but mine. I am ultimately accountable. And I think that embracing that super accountability it's a hack for achieving way more in your life, because there is no other reason not to succeed but your own actions.
That's it.
Right?
Yes. Yeah. It's interesting. I'll use this same programmer, keyboard player friend as an example. on Friday, I am doing some time shifting to make room for a rehearsal for an upcoming, we're doing a Beatles tribute show over Thanksgiving. And I believe of the people involved, everyone else is full-time at the theater except for him and me. And I was like, Friday afternoon is the time that rehearsal is going to work. And he is always able to make those work because he can time shift his employee. Like he can go work that night you know, he can do the same time shifting. And I think that time shifting thing with a lot of jobs, not every job, but with a lot of employees, that's possible. Certainly the people that work for me can time shift. He
and
gets
it's
to
valuable.
time shift.
So
that
an
is
employer,
currency. Absolutely.
It is currency. It is on your list of benefits.
100%.
Often more valuable even than what you're paying people. Is to recognize that, that, hey, I don't want you to miss your kids' play or baseball game or whatever. But I think we're all adults who can make it up.
I think what I'm saying here is that I used to see that ability to time shift as something that was only in the realm of the entrepreneur, the business owner. And that has changed.
It has changed.
That's not there. But your comment about ultimate accountability and that you're building for yourself, that is the thing that we get to trade. I have, as do you, I have unlimited upside in my annual salary. I have unlimited downside as well.
Of course.
Of course. But that is not true of most employees. Even salespeople who work on commission, there's always going to be a cap, man.
That's
whether it's baked, whether it's written into your contract or not, it will be.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, and we talked about this before about exponential opportunities, right? We talked about I think a week or two ago.
Yeah,
and that's very similar. Is that you're doing all these things. You're in the game, like we talked about earlier. You're learning every day. You're building. You're taking advantage of opportunities. You're trying to add value to people's lives and to products you sell, services, whatever it is. And that it's almost like I liken it to like a knob, right? If I want to crank it up, okay, man, I'm going to do it. But like I have certain other things like. November through January, I want to hunt every Wednesday. That's just that's what I love to do.
That's your thing. That's why we do this show on Tuesdays. That's why we record on Tuesdays.
We used to do it on Wednesdays, and they're like, wait, let's change that.
Hey, Dave, do you mind?
No. No, of course not, because we have ultimate flexibility.
Yes.
And so I like that knob. It's usually cranked to 11 for me, but oftentimes I want to crank it back to 0. Now, when I'm hunting, am I still thinking about business? Of course, but I like it. I enjoy this, or I wouldn't do this show, right? So, I love the flexibility. How do you use that flexibility in your business? Do you share it with your employees and your team, or do you hold a little tighter rein? I'd love to hear your experiences. Feedback at businessbrain.show. Come share your stories, or follow. Tell us up on X at Dave Hamilton, at Shannon Jean. We love to hear from you.
Absolutely. Like he said, at Shannon Jean, at Dave Hamilton, feedback at businessbrain.show. Let us know how you manage all that. Have a great weekend and keep living that charmed life. I'll see you next week.